Wow, what an amazing view.
Welcome to the Gomukh trek.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Feed Me and our travel series, food series on India trip. Today we are doing the Gomukh trek and I will be taking over because Disha is in the Gangotri hotel. She is suffering from altitude sickness, which is a real reality when you do this trek. Check out the previous videos on Yamunotri and Gangotri. Each one of the dhams is incrementally at a higher level than the other. So take your time when you do these treks because altitude sickness is the last thing you want, especially when you keep going higher and higher. Gomukh will be a level higher, probably be the highest peak on this trek. And so I'm gonna take over to give you the skinny. Stay tuned. All right, so we're just entering the national park. As you can see, I had to remove my jacket. It's September, and yet the heat is sweltering. As you climb also, the air thins, so make sure you pace yourself. The scenes are honestly out of this world. You can see the foothills of the Himalayas. You can actually see the snow-capped peaks right behind me as well. I would recommend that you bring jackets, bring sunscreen, bring glasses, bring all of this. But obviously pack light because you're gonna have to carry everything. I do believe you can hire a porter here. And we've actually hired a guide as well, which is recommended. The terrain can be a little challenging. And the local guides here are just completely aware of the paths, natural remedies to take, like altitude sickness. More than 50% of the people who come here do get it. And so it's better to be safe than sorry. But look at this view. Insane. Whew. Wow, what an amazing view. Okay, 20 minutes into the hike and we've made it to the first checkpoint. As you can see, there's a lot of guidance here on what you can and cannot bring on this hike. Plastic articles are strictly prohibited in terms of littering. The people here will actually check how much plastic you have in your bag, and you have to make sure that you bring that back. You cannot litter. So they're gonna count the amount of plastic you went with and the amount that you came back with. And if the delta doesn't add up, then you will face a fine. So make sure that you keep a tally of how much you bring and then hold on to all your litter. Any power bar wrappers, any toiletries, anything at all, make sure you keep it in your bag and on you at all times.
We came across so many beautiful sights on this trek, but most of the trek was really rough terrain. And I definitely did not wear the best running shoes, so one key tip I'll give is make sure you wear proper terrain running shoes because most of the path is just boulders.
We're about half an hour into the trek, surrounded by mountains. We've just crossed like a waterfall as well, drank from the water. The water is the cleanest you'll find in the world. You can drink from it, you can wash your face with it. People generally fill their bottles up here with the water. That's how pure it is. And it's mineral water, so we'll be glowing at the end of this. One thing I'll share with you is that this plant right here, this plant, the locals call it Ganga Tulsi. Now this plant is a special plant and you'll smell it right away. It has a super unique smell. You're not gonna smell this anywhere else. It actually, if you keep it with you, and you start facing symptoms of altitude sickness, this is gonna be a huge lifesaver. It's a natural remedy here. All the locals know about it, and now you do too. Gomukh is part of the Himalayas. It's a trek to see the origin of one of the most famous rivers, one of the most significant rivers of India, the Ganges, more popularly known as Ganga. And it is nothing short of breathtaking. All around me, you're gonna see the most incredible views of the Himalayas, which are the oldest, one of the most ancient rock formations, mountain ranges in the world. As you can see the Ganges right here, Ganga River. You just can't fathom how incredible this is. No camera can capture this beauty. Just have to be here in person.
One scary part of this trek that we had to be prepared for was landslides. Our guide told us that there are a lot of mountain goats on the path to Gomukh. And given that the terrain is so rocky, when they jump around at the top of the mountains, they actually create landslides, falling rocks and boulders. And that's why our guide was just explaining to us that we have to go one by one across this cliffside path as he watches and makes sure that the mountain goats aren't moving when we start walking. Because if they start jumping, they're going to create landslides and rocks may fall on us.
Okay, so now we are at another checkpoint and we're about 10,000 feet above sea level. So you can definitely feel the oxygen thinning. There are a lot of options in the town before you start the trek to get an oxygen can. You don't necessarily need it, but it is handy to keep it on hand. You can see here the snow-capped peaks. It's actually unnamed, and I'd suggest you take as many breaks as possible. It doesn't matter your fitness level, the oxygen here is thin, so make sure you take care of yourself. So we're less than 1 kilometer away from Chirbasa, which will be the first official stop, and it's a place where you can get coffee, some beverages, place to sit down, take a break before your next 4 kilometers to Bhojbasa, it's the official campsite. You can see in the distance really famous mountain peak called Bhagirathi. You can almost see a space on that actually. And Chirbasa will just be right over that tree line. So we'll connect with you then. So we've just reached Chirbasa. We actually had to climb a one-person ladder across a waterfall, one person at a time. My guide helped me cross. Now we're at Chirbasa, which, as you can see, you can get a bunch of snacks, take a break, have some tea, just catch your breath. So we're at Chirbasa now. As you can see, there are not a whole lot of options. We have a paratha here with some pickles. There's also chai that you can have. It's a great meal, especially when you're trekking. So I would suggest that when you're here and you have a chance, have a bite.
After 6 hours of trekking, we finally reached Bhojbasa camp, located 3,800 meters above sea level.
So we finally made it to Bhojbasa, and we're gonna do a same-day trip to Gomukh. And the only way we can do that right now actually is by taking this trolley, which the locals here manage. This trolley will take you across the river to the other side, where the trek to Gomukh, it's a shorter trek than the trek that we came here with. The trek to Gomukh begins there. I'll update you when we get to the other side.
This was definitely one of the scariest parts of this trek because essentially you have to pull yourself across the river. You're just sitting in a basket that sways back and forth, and it took my dad about 30 minutes to cross the river. Thankfully, we got some help from the locals, but the locals aren't always there. So a key tip here is to make sure you cross the river and come back while there are people that can help you. Otherwise, you can get stuck on the other side of the river. But we made it! Now from Bhojbasa, we had to trek about 2 to 3 kilometers more to actually reach the Gomukh Glacier. But on this side, there is no clear path, just boulders. So we were so happy we had our guide to help us.
We made it across the trolley, which was honestly not for the faint of heart, but it was a thrilling experience. You can see here behind me, right there is, locals call it Shivling Parbat. It's kind of, you can't really see it, there are a couple of clouds there. Right behind me, maybe you can see, is in the black, right about here, is Gomukh. And the sun is starting to set. It's about 4 o'clock, so we're gonna have to make it quick to get there and see what's up, and then make it back in time as well.
Finally, we made it to Gomukh. We had to trek about 19 kilometers to get here, but it was so worth it. Gomukh means mouth of the cow, and according to the locals, this place was named Gomukh because it resembled the opening of the mouth of a cow. That night, we stayed at the Bhojbasa camp, and make sure to book accommodations well in advance because there aren't many places you can stay here. The next morning, we began our journey back early in the morning for another 18-kilometer trek back down. We made pit stops along the way to drink the mountain water and make sure you're still careful on your journey, as there are many cliffside walkways and rolling boulders and landslides that happen on your path.
After 4 hours of almost non-stop trekking, we finally made it from Bhojbasa to the original Gangotri checkpoint where we had started off the journey yesterday morning. We completed the journey from Gangotri to Gomukh to Bhojbasa, Chirbasa, all the way back in about a day and a half, which in itself is actually a lot faster than most people do. I will say that this journey has been the most incredible journey. Hiking in the Himalayas is one of those places where, you know, you feel all the emotions 10 times over. You're gonna experience extreme joy, extreme fear, extreme wonder, and attain self-realization. And I think that's why, you know, a lot of people here call it the land of gods, Dev Bhumi in Hindi. And I would absolutely encourage anybody who wants to tackle their own personal hurdles, physical hurdles, come do this trek. Just pack light, have some Ganga Tulsi with you that you can sniff every other minute so that you can, combat the altitude here. And all in all, I would rate this 1,000,000 out of 10. Anyone who wants to do this journey, feel free to reach out. We've done this journey. We've partnered with incredible guides, local people to actually do this in a day and a half. So if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, and we'll be back soon with our next trek to Kedarnath. So stay tuned.